So I get a lot of emails and messages and PMs and messenger stuff and all this Instagram video, people asking me stuff. And it's just easier to cover in a podcast format. Now, you're not supposed to podcast on a video format, but I have a YouTube channel, so this is the podcast. So after the intro, put your earplugs in. This is good if you're in the airport on a layover, you got a delayed flight, you're sitting on the can maybe. Anyway, I'm going to cover some concepts people are asking, and it's just easier to do a podcast format. And then, of course, I'm going to keep shooting stuff. So here we go. Podcast. Put your earplugs in, turn the volume up, and let's see what happens. Because I'm crazy, baby. Do you think he exploded?
I don't know.
Hey guys, this is the Ranch Fairy, and this is a podcast on a video format. There won't be any video of the Ranch Fairy like my normal stuff. I'm using this to cover some topics that keep coming up, and the video is not really offering a lot of value as much as the discussion this one is about. Arrow mass, and what's the downside, what's the upside, and why would you think about heavier arrows? I say there's no downside, and this is why. Rule number one. Getting the arrow to the target and getting the arrow through the target are intertwined and mutually exclusive things. Millions and millions and zillions of dollars, psychological horsepower, and strife are spent trying to make arrows go faster and get to the target in a hurry. Very little concern is there for what happens at impact. Yeah, there's broadhead companies, I get that. But they're not studying what makes the broadheads more effective. And arrow mass is something that will make your broadheads more effective. It is a very simple solution. And just think about the last few animals you shot and the distances you shot. The difference between a 420 grain arrow and a 600 grain arrow at impact on meat is substantial. And here's my argument for why I think arrow mass has no downside. Because the animals move almost 100% of the time. And arrow mass helps penetrate a much more dynamic target than something standing perfectly still. We see a lot of broadhead testers shooting bricks, just trying to make simulated targets, and usually they make them to the point where it's to the advantage of making whatever broadhead design they are testing work better. So if you see guys shooting mechanicals, they're not going to be shooting too much hard stuff. They're going to be shooting a lot of soft stuff and saying, wow, look how wide that cut is in the jello. Listen, here's the deal. Because the animals are moving, it is a significant disorder. It's a problem. 100% of the animals I've shot on video are moving, some very little, some a lot. And a lot of them are spinning. This adds an extra level of, an extra dynamic, an extra plane of impact we are not prepared for. And I really do think the only solution to that is to make the arrow harder to stop. Speed does not deliver the same. I have tested gazillions of arrow weights on my channel. I will continue to shoot the heavy stuff. And we continue to see this higher level of performance when the animals change the game. That's why I say there's no downside to the mass, because you cannot control the animals. If we could get the animals to stand perfectly still and behave, then you could shoot pretty much whatever you wanted, because you could guarantee within a certain amount of accuracy your point of impact, despite your heart rate and freaking out and not aiming right and being pretty excited when a big deer jumps in front of you. Despite all that, the modern compound bow system is a relatively accurate system for the ranges we shoot, and it's to our advantage. It works. They work good, but the minute you hit the release, the animals change the game. And this is where the arrow mass, you should just consider if you've bonked them in the shoulders, if you've had some runoff, you've had some inadequate penetration. You see all the videos on YouTube with a lot of the, very high selling broadheads, very popular stuff, and the penetration is lacking, and it leads to losses. You're not going to see losses on video. You're not going to see any of the long range shooter guys and the big TV guys talk about losing stuff because they're not paid to lose stuff. But the emails I get from people are people saying, man, I was shooting XYZ broadhead, very light arrows, and I bonked a big one and didn't really feel like I should have lost X animal. The hit should have been able to, it should have been able to penetrate. So I want you to consider, send hate mail, troy@ranchfairy.com. It's right there. Don't, well, you can publish it on whatever website. I don't really care. But if you're curious, hit me on email. Please reach out to me. I really am here to help. Everything we're doing, all the testing we're doing, everything we're showing that in a very dynamic situation, and a deer or an elk or a moose is a very dynamic thing, right? You got hair and meat and skin and bones and fat, and your broadhead goes through a multitude of different substrates before it ends up in the thorax. You want to make sure whatever it runs into, it can handle. That's want to shoot adult broadheads, cut on contacts or adult broadheads, and then, when you get into single bevels and hand sharpenables, you're really in the adult broadhead world. And that's my opinion. Hate all you want, send me emails, blah, blah, blah. Comment at the bottom on this one. But we're not preparing for when things go perfectly right. Good Lord, you can shoot them with just about anything when things work out. It's just you can't control the animals. And that's why there's no downside to the mass, because the mass will make the arrow harder to stop. So when it runs into things you cannot control, it will continue to penetrate. It's just something to consider, okay? Blah, blah, blah. You want to run it through your chronograph, and all you guys want to have a pecker measuring contest to see how fast your bows are going. But if it doesn't work when you shoot something, who cares? My bow shoots 380 feet per second with a broadhead. I bonked off of one, bounced off of one. I don't know why it happened. That broadhead's a problem. No, it might be your super light skeet load. It might be. So just consider it. Send the hate mail to troy@ranchfairy.com. Just a thought. Hey, enjoy the deer season this year. Check me out on YouTube under the Ranch Fairy. And hey, I have a great sponsor, Hunter's Blend Coffee. Check them out. HuntersBlendCoffee.com sponsors this podcast. And I've got some of that stuff at the test lab. Keeps me going. I'm I've got a coffee problem. Yeah, I drink too much of it. Look at me on YouTube. I got some scope stuff coming up, more broadheads, more arrows, and a lot of shooting. Deer season's on the way. Hey, all my fans, please send me pictures when your heavy arrow setups work. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, The Ranch Fairy. Ranch Fairy out.